Capital moves across the globe at the speed of light. Modern energy grids route power in milliseconds, adapting to global demand before we even blink. But the constitutional machinery expected to govern this environment is running on a totally different clock, constrained by an analog 20th century calendar. In systems engineering, this creates a fatal latency problem. A control system, the state, cannot effectively regulate an environment that shifts and changes exponentially faster than its own feedback loop. When the government cannot see the reality of the economy in real time, global capital hesitates. Investment cannot be deployed efficiently, and civic growth stalls. Relying on lagging 2-year regulatory autopsies blinds the sovereign. Executives manage civic capacity in the dark. This map illustrates the core problem. A localized grid fracture can occur in hours, yet state data reports normal operating parameters. Relying on this delayed information leaves executives flying blind, managing civic capacity in the dark, unaware of compounding failures until it's too late. This lag hits the legislature just as hard. Without current data, lawmakers cannot craft precise surgical regulations. They instead rely on blunt, reactive moratoriums or total bans to stop the bleeding. Stalling economic deployment is only the first symptom. The resulting information vacuum compromises the state's authority over its own power and transit networks. To solve a latency problem, you have to increase the data frequency. This is the primary engineering shift behind Layer 3. This waveform represents the outdated 2-year cycle. Layer 3 replaces it with a continuous 15-day resonance pulse, a deterministic tracking system that maps the exact physical and civic capacity of the state. The 15-day pulse supersedes the 2-year autopsy. The state now operates on mathematically verified data, updated continuously to reflect real-world energy and capital demand. For state legislatures, the guesswork disappears. Lawmakers no longer have to wait for an infrastructure failure to happen before drafting policy, or rely on heavy-handed bans to manage sudden crises. Operating on a 15-day resonance pulse shifts the legislature from a posture of reaction into executing proactive, precise, and mathematically verified capacity planning. Then there is the judiciary. Courts are currently tasked with adjudicating a massive, continuous influx of borderless network data, a task that creates an impossible liability loop for everyone involved. Layer 3 resolves this through a legal mechanism known as the Multi-Party Cybernetic Treaty. The system operates by algorithmically destroying raw data right at the source. Instead of warehousing massive amounts of risky, sensitive information, the network only transmits what is necessary for verification. This raw data is instantly replaced by cryptographic blocks. These blocks contain mathematical proof that a transaction or action occurred without exposing the underlying sensitive data. Judges no longer have to police or secure warehouses of volatile information. They simply verify the cryptographic proof of compliance presented by the network. This zero-liability architecture removes the incentive to hoard massive proprietary datasets. Because the system verifies capacity through cryptographic proof rather than raw data access, it prevents the data monopolies that typically trigger antitrust litigation. The judiciary is freed from managing systemic data risk, stepping into its true role as an efficient adjudicator of mathematical truth. The feedback loop is finally closed. The sovereign state and the modern economy are synchronized, operating on the exact same cybernetic clock. Crucial infrastructure maintains operational equilibrium. Energy and capital flow with calibrated precision, meeting demand the moment it arises. Global enterprise can now deploy capital investments with confidence, free from bureaucratic blockages, blind risk, or lagging regulatory friction. Layer 3 acts as the thermodynamic grounding rod for the modern sovereign state. By mastering its real-time data feedback loop, the state mathematically secures its national sovereignty and executes coherent, highly stable, future-proof governance.